Good afternoon, America. Welcome to our new show. This is a pilot episode of Talking Tech with Friends. My name's Anthony Bynum. I'm going to be the host. The name of our production company is the Glenn Burney Players. In our pilot episode, we have the pleasure of talking to a good friend of mine. His name is Thomas Kirby. He's a longtime tech professional. We're going to talk a little bit about GPT, that is Chat GPT. That's going to be followed with a short idyllic scene from the local baseball field. After that, we're going to finish with some modern day soul music as Tony Covay presents Show Love on Christmas Day. So everybody, sit back, relax, and enjoy. I am pleased to have my very, very good friend, Thomas Kirby here as the guest on the first episode. We're going to talk a little bit about Chat GPT. So before we start talking, I'm going to read a post that Thomas put out in the spring about technology in general. And here's what he said. We are at the beginning of an evolutionary time in technology. I want us 50-year-olds to remember life before the internet. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, Chat GPT has the potential to change the world more than the internet itself. Thomas, that was a pretty bold statement. Thanks for being on the show. Let's talk.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, Tony. And yeah, I'm happy that you noticed my post and took such interest in it. But I really did mean what I wrote. And being over 50, we all remember before even an ATM was at a bank, life going into banks, life with maps, all those types of things. And all those things have gone away. Life has changed so much that it is almost incomprehensible to the way we used to do things. But I currently am a director of business development for an artificial intelligence and machine learning company by the name of PD4 Solutions. And working through applications with them, nothing that we've experienced compares to the breakthroughs that are about to happen and how it's going to affect the everyday lives of workers and people.
Now, I understand, I did a little additional research to be ready to try to get ready for tonight's interview. But I understand this technology was unveiled basically at the latter part of 2022. Is that kind of in line here?
So ChatGPT is a combination of technologies, artificial intelligence / machine learning, and then natural language processing. Artificial intelligence, we always hear that. And a simple explanation is that they examine the actions of a process, whatever that process is. They repeat those actions thousands of times, watching and observing. And from that, they can build a decision tree. So it can mimic the exact behavior of the human being. That combined with natural language processing now allows someone to talk or write, say in a chat box, a real question and have a real answer given back to them, or the intelligence to move that to another process. So if you're calling in or you're online and you say, or you're calling in and you say, hey, I want to check my bill. And then you check your bill and you say, oh, you know what? The amount that is paying me is wrong. What do we do? The natural language processing would recognize it like a real person. And the artificial intelligence would say, now I'm supposed to do step 2, which is passing the person on. So that customer service person that we're used to talking to, there's no reason for that job anymore. And that's just a small example of the displacement that's going to happen as this technology is adapted.
So let's go back about 16 to 17 years, right? I'm watching Jeopardy, always trying to get all the questions right, usually get half of them wrong. And they had a series of shows where Alex Trebek introduces a new person, but he's actually a computer named Watson. So was that the first look that we had into the future this 15, 20 years ago?
I think that was probably the first of the natural language processing, because it's just, it's been around for a long time. It just hasn't been accurate. So, you'd say something and it wouldn't really pull it up. What is different with ChatGPT is when you ask that question, ChatGPT is pointed towards a data source, whether that data source is the internet or an internal data source that has information on it. So when you ask that question in real language, ChatGPT goes out and finds that information on the internet and then answers you in normal language. So if you said, hey, what are the steps in starting a business? ChatGPT would come back and say, here are the 4 steps. And here's the information that I found on the internet. And then as you're going through, it will keep record of the subject and the topic. So, I can keep on asking it detailed questions. My first experience with it is I was putting together a marketing campaign and I needed to do some competitive research. And I literally just asked about 7 questions, and ChatGPT provided all the information, and for all intents and purposes, wrote about a 4-page paper in about 15 minutes.
So I wanted to go initially in one direction, and I'm going to make a little note here so I can go in the other direction in a moment. When we talk about those most basic languages from 30 years ago, what kind of, to write this code, is this technology, is coding just so new, or is it still drawing from those very basic languages that were written so many years ago?
So here's where I'm going to say to the audience that I am not a tech person. I'm a salesperson that has been in the tech field for a very, very long time. But to answer your question, no one uses Fortran anymore. But the languages that they do use, they write these languages and algorithms. It's really, we've heard this term algorithm, and all our algorithm is predictive behavior based off of data. What has happened lately, and what's changed all this, is the capacity to import and examine the huge amounts of data necessary for the decision trees to work properly. So that's what's changed lately. The language has almost kind of always been there. We haven't had the capability to process information at the rate that it takes in order to do that.
So let's go to the second part of what I was thinking about a few moments ago, right? So I read an article fairly recently, and it was about staying ahead of this technology, i.e., as opposed to being replaced by the technology, using the technology to your advantage. How? Tell me about applications there.
So if you're going to use it to your advantage, there are tons of applications that you can use with. I'll give you an example. One of the applications that we have introduced into the marketplace is called it's a systematic literature review tool, and what that is that when pharmaceutical companies or even the government is looking for medical issues, or they're looking to determine some type of research, what happens is they have to go out and pull maybe 4 or 5,000 documents. And then they have to filter through those documents. It makes them almost all year to do this process. We can have the entire process in a month with one person. So any job where you sit in front of a computer, any job where you're processing paperwork, whether that paperwork is virtual or solid or physical, any of those jobs are at least a portion of them you're able to move over to some type of artificial intelligence or machine learning or chat GPT. And the reason I'm saying them together is that they come together, they work together.
So we've seen this inside our sci-fi for 70, 80 years, before we were around, right? We've seen this concept in our sci-fi where the computers take over, okay? Where they have arms and legs and they can think enough to know that they don't need rest and they can take over. We've seen this over and over and over again. But now, perhaps this is the first time. But yet it's not, because again, they don't have arms and legs. How?
Actually, they do. Actually, they do, because this technology is being used in robotics also. And so, like, you're having security dogs that police forces are using to monitor. Like in New York City, they have a beta test going on now. And what they're talking about in regards to what you're saying is the computer becomes aware. That is a real concern right now with artificial intelligence. When you read some of the blogs, even the writers of this realize that there's a place where the data almost creates natural thought. There's a place, like where they haven't gotten to, but even the people that are writing the software are saying this is dangerous because it can lead to these doomsday scenarios that we see in those futuristic movies.
It's really amazing stuff. It's really amazing stuff. One of the articles that I read to kind of help illustrate your point was a fraud magazine that I get. And it talked about a lot of the very basic frauds, romance frauds, the Nigerian prince frauds. And one of the reasons that they tend to be fairly easily discovered is that they make a lot, usually the perpetrators of the fraud tend to make a lot of mistakes. Because something as basic as spelling and grammar and syntax. But the article that I read said that the fear with this new technology is that it will eliminate all those red flags. It will just eliminate the red flags. And it's something that you have to think about. But I know this, if fraudsters are out there using this, then law enforcement's out there using this, and every regulator is out here using this, whether they're government regulators or some sort of inspector for this company or that company. So I know there are positive applications that are not
they're positive applications, but I think your expectation of the speed of adaptation within side of law enforcement and the government itself may not be as accurate as you think it is. It takes time to adapt technology like this, and the public space and the private space adapts this type of technology so much quicker. Um, and law enforcement is behind the curve in this. Um, I mean, you're talking about an email that may be a fraud, but you can actually generate a person that can sit and talk to you that is totally generated through the computer. The image is totally false. And with human language processing, it's almost at the point where you wouldn't even know you're talking to a computer. So it's there has to be and some of the things I'm talking out loud aren't here now, but when you start to look at the technology and you say, what's this going to look like 10 years from now? It's indescribable. And for those scenarios of, hey, all these jobs went away, all this went away, all that went away, that's a very real concern, because they're no more. They're probably a 10% of the map making companies that were there when we grew up, because there's no need for maps anymore, for the most part. And it's the same thing. It's going to be, there's just no need for that job because I can do it through a computer and get it done better.
Efficiency. Really, it's really quite amazing. And now very scary. Thank you very much.
Okay. So if your kids are going to college, like I said, have them either go to college and major in computer science, maybe the arts, but a lot of that's going to be generated through computers. Right now, they've got, dead artists that are making new songs because they're using artificial intelligence to program the words with their voice. Wow. So, we're in for a new world. We should be excited and embrace it, but we have to also be cautious and be aware of how quickly the world is changing and is going to change. I've heard some experts in this field compare this to the discovery of fire. And I think I mentioned this to you the other day. Like, that is how, like, everything that we've done on the internet does not compare to the next 10 years of what's going to change in our life. If you think about it, it took a decade really to incorporate the internet into the workplace. Yeah. At first you got emails, and that was within our lifetimes. I remember when there was only one computer in the whole office, or one or two computers in the whole office. Nobody had a laptop or anything like that. And now it's everything on your phone.
Yeah.
So imagine, we can't imagine what is coming in the future. And so we have to be optimistic and enjoy the ride.
I think that's probably a good place to finish up. So Thomas, I appreciate you. You anything is you want to say in closing, or
no? I'm happy to be of service to you guys in Anne Arundel. And like I said, I'm not a tech guy, but I have been in business in the tech field for years, for decades, and it was fun and enjoyable doing this. So great. Thank you.
It's Christmas Day. Let's start with a smile. Little children laughing, showing love and right. I'm big on Christmas and give to those in need. No gift can replace the love of the we hold hands by the fireplace with big smiles on each other's face, and those Christmas bells will ring as we hear the angels sing. This moment is for all to share, so let's spread the baby on Christmas Day. I wanna give love to you.
Hello, America. Thank you for tuning in to our pilot episode of Talking Tech with Friends. Again, my name is Anthony Bynum. The name of our production company is the Glen Burnie Players. So until next time, bye-bye.